So the reason why you follow is because you like that team and you want to see the content they put out. So you need to be putting out content that is valuable to them. So what is valuable to your audience? What is valuable to an amateur esports organization? And I would say a lot of times they do memes. That's the lowest hanging fruit, right? But how often do memes turn into actual followers? Well, I would say it doesn't unless you're consistent with it, right? If I see one meme from an organization, I laugh at it because that's not something you engage with much. You might retweet it, which is actually a big deal. But why would you actually follow it? They'll help you because they'll bring you brand awareness, but you need to hit them multiple times. You can't just do one. You have to do like 5. And they have to see it every single time. And then they'd be like, okay, Sanguine Esports, they are a good group of people. They are funny. So I'm going to follow them to catch more of their memes. I think roster announcements are really big, and those gain followers. When you sign a big player or big news, when something big happens, that is definitely something that people get really excited about. Really excited about. And that's how they follow. Because when you pick up their favorite streamer, they're like, oh, I'm now a fan of Sanguine Esports until they kick this player or the player leaves. So I think that stuff is really big. When you're entering a specific league or a tournament, like those kind of things, that's where people are like, oh, I want to, or you won. Suddenly people are like, oh, these guys are super legit. And Smite. And I'm a big Smite fan. I never knew who these guys were, but with the last performance, the last win, I'm going to be following them, right? So that's what gets people following. I would also say interacting with fans. This is super big. I think this is super important when it comes to smaller orgs, smaller profiles. People want to be noticed. And if you're more than a brand that's just outward facing, but you're a brand that communicates and talks to their community, that's a big deal. That's how you grow. That's how you grow anything, when people feel included. That's why Twitch streamers, like YouTube creators and Twitch streamers, have such a huge following. They become influencers because their fans feel like they're part of a community. They know the person. They want to be their friends, right? So, right, this could be educational stuff. This could be humorous. Game updates. Tough thing about this, it has to be better than what's already out there. That's the hard part, right? Because what's going to happen is Smite is going to put out their patch notes or whatever, and then you're going to be like, oh, here's our patch notes. This is the patch notes that you've been looking for. But why would they go to your patch notes versus the Smite's patch notes? If you posted a schedule update, why would they look at yours versus the Smite Pro accounts? So that's a really hard thing about this. Why would anyone follow an organization for educational content when they could follow a content creator that purely does educational content? I think something interesting that we've done with Golden Guardians is that we've been putting out statistics that are showing off our players, which necessarily LCS or any other organizations might not put out. They might put out some statistics about our players, but it's statistics for our specific players. So if you're a fan of Golden Guardians, you want to see that. You want to see how well FBI is doing. You want to see closers, like crazy stats. But also, we're putting out statistics that no one else are talking about or created. We created a new stat called expected CSD, which is expected creep score difference that is considering the matchup that they're against. So that was a stat that you could only get from us, that was valuable to the scene, that people were interested in. And that's literally the tough thing here with all this stuff that you're competing with. You have to make it better than the things that are out there. And you have to make it much better, and you have to do it on a consistent basis, and then get it in front of people, and then earn that follow to grow your social media presence. Roster update. So I also think you're missing here, like what games you're involved in. I don't know. I think what's going to happen is like what ends up happening is you respond or you get retweeted by someone, right? So this happens. This person tweets, and then his follower sees your tweet, your response to it, and they go, "What is Sanguine Esports?" And then they go, "Okay, whatever." Right? Based off of this profile picture, based off of this, I go, "Oh, okay. Oh, only 5,000 followers." Or maybe I'd be like, "Wow, 5,000 followers." It depends on like who the person is and what what they care about. And then do I follow? Right. For me, for example, you gave me your link and I looked at it and I go, "Oh, it's an amateur esports organization involved in Smite, Paladin." Okay, like these are games I don't really care about, so I didn't follow because I don't want this on my feed. But people that want to follow Smite, Paladins, and other games, they might want to follow, but I don't know what you're involved in. So therefore, the 2 seconds you have to convince someone to follow you is it has to really hit. So that's another thing that I would consider when it comes to like, what are you really gonna put here? Is like your branding and this model that important that you need to get it on there and sacrifice the followers you're gonna get? And the interesting thing here is if you're trying to take advantage of their follower numbers and convert them to you, which I would think that this could be a thing, instead of quote retweeting it to your followers, because this is just for your followers. If you want to gain followers, you need to make content that's for people that aren't your followers. So instead, what if, oh, this wasn't exactly what this was, because this is like a quote retweet thread, but you could also respond. What if you respond right here? And I don't know if this person's following you, but if you responded here, then all the people that looked at this tweet, which is at least 23 likes, they might see the comments and see you and then click on your profile and decide to follow you or not. Right? Or this person might actually click and check out your Twitter profile page and follow you. And especially if you guys are in the same, like, you both are Smite and Smite, maybe this person doesn't know you exist, or maybe they just never followed you because it never came up. So this I feel like is lower hanging fruit. This is a person that could convert into a follower. Maybe you should be interacting with your content, their content too, so that when someone clicks on this, bam. And maybe on their YouTube channel, maybe you should have your channel comment on this too. So a lot of retweeting, that's fine. I hope you interacted with this because this got some, yeah. So even putting a comment here, yeah, you need to interact with these big names to get your face in front of more people, to get brand awareness out. I always think game highlights of your players is simple, easy, and great content your audience wants to see. This stuff is good. And if you're able to step it up a notch and do some editing, subtitles, those kind of things, that's good. This did well, 2K views. So I would also look at this, like what performed well and what didn't. Like do an audit and figure out like these are all the posts we put. What do we categorize those posts as? Maybe it's like Twitch clips, post game results, pre-game hype, memes, interacting with other people, quote retweeting industry stuff, quote retweeting out of industry stuff, talking with popular hashtags. Like you categorize all these pieces of content that you put out, and then figure out what does well and what doesn't do well. And then you double down on what does well. And then you either reimagine the stuff that doesn't do well or you cut it. I get that you want to put this on your feed so you can get interaction with your fans. But again, if you're trying to grow, what happens if you post that meme in here? because then at least 8,000 people might see it. And then they come into here and they go, ha ha ha, wow, the Sanguine Esports is so funny. I'm going to go follow them. Especially when they're already in the mindset where like, wow, this guy is so, like, this team is so cool. This player is so cool. Oh, I should go follow their Twitter account because their Twitter account is actually active. You know, like exactly what you're doing here. And you can even see how many profile clicks each tweet gets and how many follows each tweet gets. So that's also a way to figure out like what converts the most followers. So you can look at that stuff in analytics. The cool thing that you can do too, I would also say, is resurface his. I'm gonna put this in quote. Resurface this stuff. You know, this is not that old. This is August, but if you did something like 6 months ago, or 3 months ago, or maybe a month ago, and just like reposted this with different copy, because you don't want to just repost the same exact thing because Twitter is going to flag that as spam or whatever. But something that did well, just repost it again. Throwback Thursdays or whatever. Like, people like to see this stuff, so just reuse old content that has worked.